This presentation is focused on research done into the comparison of religious philosophy in China and Japan. Confucianism. Confucianism in China is fairly different than Confucianism in Japan. Chinese Confucianism places focus solely on the teachings and beliefs of the thinker Confucius. However, in Japan, morals and ideas are borrowed from China and other nearby countries to compose Japan's own unique version of Confucianism. The main focus of Confucianism in China is placed on goodness, stability, and harmony. Every member of the dogma focuses on the avoidance of causing harm to others and works to fully realize their own personal value. Nonetheless, Chinese Confucianism also restrains individual thought. The teachings call for people to play their appropriate role in society by doing their best to bring goodness into the world. The development of this idea has neglected to include the growth of technology into law and society, which has hindered the development of China. On the other hand, in Japan, Confucianism has steadily changed and adapted to include new ideas and to encourage individual thought. This has been crucial for the development of Chinese society and has been the driving force for Japan to stay in tune with cultural advancements and technological developments. Another factor that has proved helpful for Japan is the willingness to take into consideration the nation's interests and needs. Neo-Confucianism. The first phase was completed in the 11th century by Zhu Ji in the Northern Song dynasty. Years later, Neo-Confucianism became the accepted ideology throughout China during the Ming dynasty. This movement included philosophers, painters, poets, and doctors. Many of the most demonstrations of early Chinese culture was sparked by the evolution of Neo-Confucianism. These included movie development, the construction of theater, and martial arts. Neo-Confucianism consisted of many Buddhist and Taoist ideals, yet many people who took part in Neo-Confucianism strongly disagreed with their way of thinking. The Neo-Confucianism movement spread all across Eastern Asia to countries such as Korea, Vietnam, and most notably, Japan. Neo-Confucianism was introduced to Japan from China by the Zen Buddhists. It can be described as the study of principle. Even though Buddhists introduced Neo-Confucianism, it was not strong enough to develop independently. Neo-Confucianism primarily focused on practical side of human affairs with law, economics, and politics. They emphasized Chu Xi's way of education, such as learning and core values, intuitive perception of truth, and the revision of the original Chinese sages Confucius and Meneses. Buddhism. Buddhism in China derived mainly from India. Schools for Buddhism eventually developed to have their own unique twist, which ended up being a more successful form of Buddhism. Chinese Buddhism was influenced by Confucianism and Taoism, which are two major religions in China. The three major schools for Buddhism in China are the Ten Tai School, which focuses on the Lotus Sutra, the Chan School, focusing on meditation, and the Pure Land School, which emphasizes devotion to the Red Buddha. Buddhism in China was introduced by a Chinese Buddhist, Shiba Tatsu. Most of Japan's Buddhist schools came from successful Chinese and Korean schools. The four main schools are traditional schools, which maintain a strong monastic tradition, Zen schools, affecting mainly monasteries, Pure Land schools, which are similar to the ones in China, and Nichiren Shoshu traditions that have developed in Japan and are a devotional form of Buddhism. Zen schools are the most influential on Buddhism in the West. Taoism. Lao Tzu and Tao Te Ching are credited with the founding of Taoism through the text, the classic of the way and its power. Started in China, Taoism competed for followers with Confucianism for most of its existence. In Japan, it was often referred to as Taoism, while in China it was mostly called Taoism. However, Tao and Tao both translate to the way. The main concept of the dogma is that all people are good, but may be corrupted by law. Regulating people's behavior only makes them behave badly because it creates an artificial environment which people rebel against, so that they may maintain their natural state of peace. Lao Tzu believed that if you left people alone, they will not harm you. One of his famous quotes was, "If you do not quarrel, no one on earth will be able to quarrel with you." As outlined in this presentation, despite their few differences, China and Japan have very similar philosophical structure. Most of religion in Asia was locally founded and then spread quickly from one nation to another. Our group felt that this phenomenon is very interesting and gave valuable insight into cultural similarities between China and Japan.